All right, welcome to the Pitch Stack, episode 11. We made it. We're here. We're at episode 11. I'm Douglas DeYoung, joined as always by my co-host Matt Rodriguez. Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing great. We had a great weekend. Today has been all right today as well. Can't complain.
Yeah, we went on a little adventure this weekend.
We sure did.
We ended up driving, let's say, 180 miles to a Magic the Gathering judge conference at Cool Stuff Incorporated in scenic Maitland, Florida.
Very scenic. And we learned some things. It was pretty interesting. And I know it's not very fab related, but it is trading card game related. And it would be really cool if Fab implemented something like this in the future, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Like one of the first Fab judge conferences is going to happen.
Right? I don't know. I'm going to start sending some emails to LSS and see if we can get something like that going, whether have it be digital or in person, because I think it would be phenomenal.
100%, man. And plus it'd be great for level zeros as well. And then just get people on the track for certifying,
Absolutely.
And this weekend we also had Reiner versus Dory come out, Classic Battles.
We did, and I can't find it anywhere. It seems to be in very limited supply.
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. A lot of people pre-ordered this product, and coming off the back of History Pack 1, which is very undersupplied, it's not surprising.
Yeah, that's true. I pre-ordered my my Rhinar versus Dory dual decks, and they just haven't arrived yet.
Very smart. So, yeah,
looking forward to it.
Super keen on it to begin with, but I did actually just buy some cards on TCG Player. The cards I had decided I was gonna try to want like a playset of because they turned out to be not too expensive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I had gotten a playset of the Pack Call and the generic like weapon reaction cards and a foil Bone Vizier.
Oh, cool. I want to grab that Dory card that lets you put 1/1 counters.
Yeah, that card's expensive
on your weapon. Yeah, I know. It's really good. It's really the only like constructed playable card in the whole thing. So
absolutely. I'm going to wait on that one. We'll see. Maybe it'll get printed somewhere else in some kind of history pack deal or I don't know. But I think it's maybe too expensive right now. Because Dory's not really super playable right now to begin with in CC.
But have you tried it with that card? Exactly.
No, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It definitely can change things up, shake it up. And
yeah, so I don't know. I'm hoping that there's rumors of another supplemental set coming in October this year. And so I'm hoping that we see these cards show up in that supplemental set. So we'll see. I do agree, though, that them being so playable is kind of a problem. I don't know.
And 100%. Mostly for those majestic ones, and seeing them really expensive is a little demoralizing. But we do have some more cards to look forward to because next week or this Sunday, less than 7 days, this Saturday, actually, June 4th, spoiler season begins for Uprising.
That it does, which I am extremely excited for.
Yeah. I, for one, hope for some really cool reasons to play Draconic and maybe Fae. We'll see. Some nice equipment's coming out, legendary ones, hopefully.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting decision for them to kind of hold, like, to announce the set, to generate all the hype, and then really hold back on the spoilers until ProQuest season is over. I think that's fascinating. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and I hope it's not too much of a slow drip. Hopefully, we get a lot of it all at once.
Right. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. So I don't know. Yeah, I am afraid of them slow dripping this on us, which seems to be what they're gonna do. Although I don't know, what is it? It's 2 weeks of spoilers, and then Uprising comes out.
I don't know the date of Uprising release, but I'd like to say it's probably about 2 weeks usually.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, I'm on board for that. So I guess the big news is that we got a special guest on the show today.
Hell yeah. Our first guest.
Our first ever guest. That's right. We have other friends.
They're not imaginary, I swear.
So yeah, we're gonna hear a little bit from Pro Tour competitor, feature match featuree Jonathan Owens, and we'll get to that right after the intro.
Let's go.
You're listening to the Pitch Stack Podcast.
All right, and we're back from the intro. So today we are going to hear from Pro Tour competitor Jonathan Owens, who placed 23rd overall. So John had an amazing showing on Starvo. So John, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Hell yeah.
So, John, I'll start this off, though, with a few questions here. So, what's interesting, right, is you showed up, you were on Starvo. Did you feel like that was the best deck to play at the Pro Tour?
Yeah, so the thing with Starvo was I had played it during ProQuest season, so it was something that I felt comfortable on. I wasn't sure what the ban list was going to look like, and I felt like the other decks that were kind of favored, Chain and Prism, they kind of rewarded players that were exclusively tied to those heroes, especially Chain, right, where you're navigating fatigue, you're navigating aggro matchups, mirrors. So for me, I've always felt really confident in the Guardian Mirror. I'm Oldham and Bravo player, so it felt like the natural pick for me that I wouldn't be nervous playing the deck. I felt comfortable navigating the mirror, and it just felt like the right pick. That I feel like I would be more experienced compared to a lot of Guardian players that would be playing Starvo as well.
Oh, right on. So yeah, I think that was a pretty good meta call. So do you so you come from a Vanguard background, right? That's primarily the other card game that you've played coming into Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, Vanguard competitively, Pokemon TCG competitively growing up as well. Those have been like the main two that I've kind of played throughout the years.
Oh, right on. And it's so weird, like, for me to hear Pokemon TCG competitively, because when I was growing up, Pokemon TCG was very much like almost every match, if you were off a meta deck, was like a coin flip, and like everyone was 10 years old, so everyone was off meta decks. And it's really weird for me to hear like competitive Pokemon TCG. But one of my friends actually the other day he was telling me like about like how the meta is and how competitive everything is. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he showed me his deck, and I was like, oh, this is a completely different game than I grew up playing. So that's interesting.
A fair assumption. Yeah. I mean, the game has changed a lot, unfortunately. I like the older formats of the game. Even right now, as like a seasoned TCG player, I would say that the older formats of the game are just like a really fun, rewarding experience. I played during Heart Gold, Soul Silver era, and there was like 10 tier 1 decks at the time. Everything was pretty unique. So it was a bit different than what it is now, but games have their ups and downs, so I kind of just played that for like about 4 years. That's what got me into TCGs, so I have to be thankful for it.
Now, so I'm very unfamiliar with Vanguard, but so between Pokemon TCG and Vanguard, which one do you think has the skill set that transfers over to Fab the most?
Oh, I would say Vanguard. I was surprisingly enough, like Namvo, who won one of the callings, also was a Vanguard player that I actually knew back in the day. So it was pretty funny to see. Like, it transitions really well from my point of view, because Vanguard's a game of resources, denying your opponent resources, and blocking. Blocking is absolutely huge in Vanguard. So, a lot of times Pokemon TCG is just solitaire and kind of playing your deck to the best of your ability, but you're not ever put in situations where, you have to make a decision of losing this card or, using it to go on the offense type of deal because there's no blocking. So, having those stressful situations in Vanguard where you literally have to block and you have to sacrifice, it made the mindset a bit easier coming into Fab for sure.
Oh, right on. So I come from like a background of Magic the Gathering, as does Matt. And the other card game that I have played extensively, though, is the original Dragon Ball Score card game. So not like the Dragon Ball collectible card game that Bandai produces, but the original Dragon Ball Z trading card game. It was originally produced by Score, like the makers of the sports cards, and then they eventually sold it to Panini, who continued to make it. And what's fascinating to me is when I first picked up Flesh and Blood, it was like, oh, this is just the Dragon Ball Z card game. They finally made it. And so for me, it was like a breath of fresh air because obviously I hadn't played the Dragon Ball card game in, I don't know, 15 years. And it's like you said with Pokemon, like I feel like Magic can do the same thing where you're kind of just playing your deck and setting your deck up and like doing the things that your deck needs to do as opposed to the extremely high level of interaction that comes with Flesh and Blood and apparently Vanguard. So maybe I need to check Vanguard out.
Yeah, for sure.
He keeps poking at me to try a little Vanguard as well. So I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll finally do it.
The cards are just too small.
Yeah, they're the smaller Yu-Gi-Oh size. I haven't been playing as much Vanguard lately. I'm getting back in. I just built a deck for a tournament at the end of the month, so I'm finally getting back. After Pro Tour, had to be focused on the grind up until now. So now we can take a little breather basically until Uprising.
Excellent.
Yeah. So okay, so now I have I've got a couple high level questions about Flesh and Blood. Specifically, something I've noticed, and I mean anybody who's looking at the metagame right now, you'll see that Starvo and Chain are absolutely dominating the meta. And so, do you think that the reason these decks are dominating is because they are the ones that kind of, in my opinion, they're the two decks that scale the most with your ability to memorize your pitch stack, if that makes sense? Do you think it's that they have a higher skill ceiling, or is it just a combination of that and the card pool?
I actually don't think so. I think that Starvo is only dominating because of the aspect of hand control. And that's something that's very unexplored in Fab, that we obviously already see the implications of. Because when you have an Oakenold, you have, Oakenold and Crippling Crush, which just basically tell your opponent to take a turn off and deal incredible amounts of damage. So when you do that and when you're able to manipulate hand, I think that it's actually a very bad design space that oppresses pretty much every other deck. Because obviously you need cards to play Fab. It's supposed to be back and forth with blocking and attacking. But when you have cards like Oakenold and Crippling, they don't give your opponent the choice. So I think that's an aspect of Starvo that makes it the most unhealthy. I think if Oakenold was Oldham specialization, I don't think the deck would be nearly as insane as it is. At least aggro can play into it a bit better. With Chain has aspects that are complex, but a lot of the time it's just the best aggro deck. So Carrion Husk and the incredible amount of just shield value it has with its equipment, I just think propels it to have such a fast gameplay into other aggro decks that kind of gatekeeps them. Plus the concept of Banish Zone. So you have Starvo kind of taking away hand from other players and Chain playing with an extended hand. So I think that's the cause personally.
That makes sense.
That makes
just
a lot
the
of sense.
pure card advantage seems to be exactly what's happening with both these decks. So, I mean, I kind of agree, though, that it is more oppressive with Starvo because you have a momentum swing on two different axes. I don't know. I need to look that up later.
Very interesting now that you've said it out loud, and it's made me realize this as well, is that maybe that's why the new Lexi deck's performing really well. is that it makes blocking very hard and unpredictable, and it also controls it also controls your hand with
Yeah, that Lexi
the
deck.
amulets of ice, with even the amount of pitch you have to pitch to pay your cards for frostbites, and also the discard arrow.
Yeah, I think
Really nice
Lexi
thing.
was insane. I mean, I saw it at the Pro Tour at the top tables. I think it was like 8-0 or 7-0 at one point, and it was insane. I mean, just looking at it, and I was like, why is Lexi there? I hadn't really regarded Lexi as a top hero until I kind of thought about it for a second, and it was like in front of our faces this entire time. Because if you look at Ranger and Guardian, they're actually really similar. I mean, you have cards like Sleep Dart. It seems like it's a class that has options. They're just not necessarily regularly explored. So you have Sleep Dart and Fatigue Shot and Battering Bolt, and like there is a lot of disruption. All the ice cards too, and I don't think it was really explored with a very tweaked into the meta type of list that has all that disruption. So it almost acts as like a little bit weaker than Chain, but by losing a little bit of that aggressive pressure, you get in turn a little bit of control that tells Starvo and all these other decks like you're not going to have the 4 card hand even if you don't block, which
Yeah.
is just absolutely fantastic, really, especially when Starvo needs to fuse.
Yeah, they have to respect it.
You just don't have a choice. I mean, I played against it at ProQuest, and I barely won the match. I was at 1 life on Starvo, and I only got out by drawing a Crippling Crush fuse off a 4 card hand. So, I mean, the deck just tells you, you're not going to be able to fuse. If you do fuse, it's going to cost you, and you're not going to be able to hammer or arsenal. So it definitely really came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And it's crazy how well that Yuki Bender list performed at the Pro Tour. She was crushing and tanking names, making it all the way up until the top 32, I believe.
Yeah,
And
I think she got 30th or 31st. Really good job though.
She squeaked right in. And regarding the Pro Tour, how was your Pro Tour experience personally? Because I don't know if we've delved too much into that.
It was really good. It was really good. I'm pretty sure I played like 9 different countries, which is absolutely crazy. The banquet on Thursday was probably the highlight. It was just really well ran, and there was a ton of food. It felt like an actual banquet. Sometimes they may have like refreshments, I guess, at events, and it's not really that much like effort put into it, but it felt like a really good weekend experience for sure. The venue is like literally right next to like 4 different hotels within walking distance, so it was very well planned out. The event was super smooth, and there was plenty of judges, and things were they just ran very smooth. I mean, we got done by about 5 o'clock every day. I ended up finishing 10-4, so I got 23rd. Nothing out really.
Awesome.
Yeah, played like so many Starvo mirrors. I believe it was 4 Prism, 1 Chain, 1 Dash, and the rest was Starvo. So it was pretty much what I expected. I expected a little bit more Chain, but they were there. I just wasn't pairing into them.
I think they were losing a little bit more earlier, and they weren't in your bracket.
Yeah, I actually did notice that, which was crazy. I played Chain round 1, and looking around by round 6 and 7, it just looked like Prism and Starvo everywhere. Didn't really see. I saw the Kanos too. The Kanos were scary. I had Shock Charmers, luckily. I actually was okay with playing into Kano, but
I was super looking forward to seeing you play Kano, to be honest.
Play against Kano. Yeah. All those 4 a.m. Denny's runs with Angel getting forced to play into Kano would pay off.
And Lexi, apparently, because that paid off. Shout out Angel. He knew the meta before it happened.
I used to complain, like, play other decks, bro. These decks are bad. And then I'm eating my words the week after.
He's eating feather.
He was ahead. Yeah. He knew the text the whole time, bro.
Yeah, and and now that although Starvo didn't actually win the Pro Tour, he did win the calling. Yeah, exactly. But he did win the calling, so he will be Living Legend as soon as we get the new Uprising set. But what do you think that the format will look like without Starvo. Of course, it's hard to say without knowing what the new heroes will look like and their respective decks and card pools. But what do you think moving forward we should expect in the format without Starvo?
I think you'll see Oldhim and Prism actually bump up, and the reason is Oldhim will be really great into the aggro decks, and because of that, people will just have to play Prism, and the people that already play Prism will just play Prism anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, Prism has the aggro plan. I don't think that the aggro matchups in a Prism are as bad as people make them out to be. So I think Lexi is actually pretty well positioned. I don't think Briar will be as good as it was, and the reason is because of the existence of Ice. So the fact that Ice is getting more support in this next set will be really detrimental. One Frostbite just really derails what Briar wants to do. Even just an Ice Hammer for 4 is just absolute misery. So I'm not sure if Briar will be. I think Briar's a good deck, but I don't think it has the capacity like Chain did to really deal with a little bit of Frostbite. Just not enough blue cards really in the deck. I think Faye and Dramai, I believe, will be. I don't. They'll be. I think they'll be good. I don't know how good, but it seems like LSS is really hyping up the set. I think Icelander will be good too, as a kind of like a hybrid deck that will play attack and the arcane damage, which we haven't really seen a good mixture of that in Wizard. So I think that'll be interesting to see. But I do think all the new heroes will add something. We can't really say anything in particular until we kind of get hero abilities, and then we can kind of theory craft from there and figure out, do we think it's going to be really good, or are we going to get some average heroes? Because lately the heroes have been stacked. If you look at Tales of Aria, Oldhim, Briar, and Lexi are all competitively viable, right? Then you have some of the older heroes which really fell out. Like Dash hasn't been doing as well as I'd like it to since like that Monarch format. And Prism stayed good. Levia and all these other decks too have just kind of fallen off. So I think it'll be interesting. Maybe there'll be room for older contenders to come back in.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe that says something about talents in general. That's kind of like the future of Fab, which I kind of would like to think that that's not the case. But especially with all this talk about Uprising, that definitely brings us into the next question. What do you hope to see in Uprising for new card space, right? Because we know they're pushing Icelander to be sort of this new stacks deck, right? Which is definitely going to start just wrecking Runeblade's days, right? They're already playing on such tight mana costs and stuff. But yeah, these afflictions, auras, arcane damage, like you were saying, hybrid. But we haven't seen much for Draconic. So what kind of, between the two elements and the two new heroes that we're going to get, what do you hope to see regarding card design space and Uprising?
I'd like to see less of kind of like the oppressive cards like Channel, Lake Frigid. If that makes sense. I don't know how to categorize them.
Yeah.
Like very controlling resources.
We usually call those stacks cards. It's like a Magic the Gathering slang term that's bled into other
that makes sense,
TCGs.
Yeah, so I think I see less stack cards personally. I'd like to see a bit more mid range. I like the back and forth aspect of Fab, and I feel like when you have those cards like Channel Lake Frigid, a lot of players just immediately pivot to the let me block out my entire hand and wait till this thing is dead. And then when you have things like auras in existence that just stay on the board, you have to swing into them. I like the back and forth. I like to see more design space that kind of encourages that, or rewards you, I guess, for kind of going in on your opponent, or even maybe playing a card that says if you have one card in your hand, it has an effect. If you have two or less cards in your hand, it has an effect.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, just something that kind of adds a little bit more depth. If you have one card in your hand, right, it means you blocked most likely, or you played out another card. So it could say maybe if you didn't play another card and you have one card in your hand, then it has like cool effect. I like to see definitely more interaction with auras, because I feel like the existence of Prism and some of these auras kind of gatekeep a lot of decks from existing. Especially the Guardians. I'm biased. I'm a Guardian main, but even some Ranger decks like just can't handle Prism. Um, decks that do more than less than 2 attacks a turn just really struggle. I'd like to see some generic support maybe that can be teched in that doesn't have to destroy Prism, but at least gives decks like Oldham like maybe a 40-60 instead of a 95-5. I really don't like going into a game and having like a confirmed loss. Like I just don't think that's healthy in general.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It doesn't, it's very much like Magic. You have your matchups where you just concede, like you just know you're losing.
Time sieve, ban
it. Apparently a good card, but it's not fun to just like walk up to a match and just know you've lost because your deck, your hero doesn't have the tools necessary, right?
Yeah,
you just can't. You just physically
miserable.
can't
It's
slot
so
in the
miserable
cards.
as an Oldham main. Like, as someone that wants to play Oldham, and I know Michael Hamilton feels the same if he's listening. I almost played Oldham for Pro Tour, and then I had people snap me back in my senses, and they're gonna be like, "You're just gonna get mad if you play Prism." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're not wrong." So,
yeah,
been through the Prism despair arc with Doug here and some other local gamers who kind of whipped me into shape though for that matchup. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like you're on the Prism plan now, though.
I am. I picked up Prism. I gotta send it to Living Legend as soon as possible.
That's one way to do it.
Say, when we were testing for the Pro Tour, I like anytime I saw, like whenever I saw you on a feature match or whenever you were reporting like that you crushed somebody, I was like, yeah, I beat that guy 7 times last week. I was like,
it's true. Dude, the Prism despair arc, bro. I was so serious. If you saw my face, Doug, during those games, I wasn't talking. I usually am joking around, having a good time. But I was going through 7 different, multiverses where how to beat Prism, like questioning life, like why does this deck exist? why do double aura turns happen? Like it was wild. It was next level.
Double aura turns. You gotta love it, right?
I think I was like depressed. I remember coming home that night where I'm pretty sure you just slapped me for like 7 games straight. I just questioned.
I went and got ice cream everything.
Ice cream to celebrate. Starvo tears. Starvo tears. But yeah, it's actually funny.
Tears.
I just realized that you don't really need to lead the charge. Like there was this like Guardian, the control Guardian player mentality that I was kind of trying to force, where it's like you just swing at the aura. And then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, you can just up your fuse rate and go face. That's literally what I did at the Pro Tour, and it was working.
Full
you
casino.
Just side out. Yeah, you just full casino. But it's like you're wasting time giving Prism more wiggle room to double aura and to do some other plays. Like obviously you have to manage the auras towards the start of the game, but once you get past under maybe like 15, 20 life, you just go in. You just got to commit and go all in, and hope they didn't draw hands that block. A lot of times they don't. It's kind of obvious when they don't. So yeah, I mean, I needed the experience. I needed the butt kicking to be able to kind of figure out what was wrong. So appreciate the testing.
Yeah, no worries. It's interesting though. I was talking about the design space for the game and what's missing, and it's weird. The game doesn't have a lot of graveyard manipulation, so I wonder if we're finally going to see some of that.
Oh, that's a good point. I think that's dangerous though. I think that's very dangerous, and the reason why is search and fab. Like getting things on demand is inherently broken. I mean, look at Awakening. Showtime's an absolutely become Showtime. Awakening, like those are 3 absolutely broken cards that all belittle minnowism. Literally just has search. Like all of them are heavy just powerhouses in the format. So I feel like they got to be careful with graveyard. Even in like from Vanguard, graveyard manipulation's always been broken. Just very, because you just get what you want when you want it. And I feel like Fab as a game is very much like you take what you're given. It's like if you get, what's that saying with like the lemonade? It's like when life gives you lemons, you make lemon, you make lemonade.
Yeah.
It's
when
like
life gives you a handful of 2 blocks, you block for 8, or
exactly.
you block for 8.
That's literally how I feel about Fab, where it's like if life gives you, if Fab gives you 4-card red hand, you block. And It's like it's like, if it just feels like if you get things on demand too consistently, it'll be problematic. Like imagine if I could just Oakenold from graveyard because I have like a talent that says I can do it.
Let's not think about that.
It's interesting, right? Though, because when you look at a card like Rattlebones, I like
so good.
Yeah, you get
card.
Go Again out of nowhere, and
Hate
you
that
get to
card.
just like you get to pick something off the prize wall that is your graveyard. And I don't know.
like
I
Chuck E.
think
Cheese
you're right
tickets.
though, because Rattlebones feels oppressive when you're playing against Runeblade, and I feel like any sort of graveyard manipulation would kind of end up looking like Rattlebones. So that is an interesting point.
It has to be heavily costed. I think it's okay, but it needs to be like a channel. Maybe it's like a channel that costs like 6 to play or something, and then you can play attack actions from graveyard. Something like that, I guess.
Oh,
But-
imagine! Yeah, that gives me some crazy ideas in my head right now.
Yeah, but it has to be heavily costed. I think if it becomes cheap, then reusing cards in Fab is pretty bad because part of the skill is like tracking, right? So it's like I know Matt has 1 swarming left. He's out of his 2 Rattlebones, so I can only get hit with swarming 2 more times, and you're kind of just going through that sometimes in games. I think if you have just instant access to like constantly recur cards, it can also become really bad for certain matchups. Like imagine if you were able to like recur like arrows, like I don't know, some broken arrow. Like what's a broken arrow? Like the one that turns off hero abilities. Imagine if every single turn you were getting hit with a turn off hero abilities into Starvo.
I will say that there is Memorial Ground, which Azalea decks have been known to run. Not that Azalea is particularly good,
Is it a secret meta?
but yeah, Memorial Ground's an instant that actually lets you put an attack action card on top of your deck from your graveyard.
Yeah,
So-
at least it minuses you. Like it doesn't play it per se.
Yeah, I mean, it gets rid of a card in your hand, and you
I don't think it
actually
has
have to
shield
draw
value.
it.
It's
Yeah, and it has no
instant, isn't
shield value. Yeah, it's an instant, no shield value. Yeah, there's definitely downsides to playing the card. It's not like
Yeah.
it's an action with Go Again and it blocks.
Right. But I do think if Fab continues to stay pretty aggressive, that we won't really see these second cycle decks, or maybe like the graveyard. You block with certain attack actions to play them later. Maybe that becomes like a gameplay mechanic. I don't think that's terrible, but I just don't think it should. I think it should be heavily tested about bringing stuff back from the graveyard.
And reading Thaw, it actually seems like that's kind of something of a direction that they're headed towards, at least with the Draconic talent, because Thaw has a triggered ability from the graveyard.
Oh, is that confirmed?
I mean, it's a card that was previewed like when they introduced the story for Uprising. It's a 2 cost 6 power Draconic attack, and it says at the beginning of your start of turn, if it's in your graveyard, you can banish it, and then you get to destroy a frostbite you control, unfreeze any target hero, or unfreeze an equipment or weapon or something.
Interesting. I don't mind effects going off from the graveyard. I just don't know. I think that actually adds a layer. Effects going off, like I think that's actually a really good design space. Actually, now that we brought that up, because being able to like respond to something, if you have maybe like you can pay to if it's in your graveyard. I know Magic has something like that, right? There has to be something
tons of
in
stuff.
Magic.
The whole game is graveyard manipulation now, or at least the modern format is. It's like,
Yeah. See, it's broken. More proof. So
and Magic's got a lot of busted things, but there's a lot of busted things to counter the busted things, so it's kind of a give and
fight
take.
power creep with power creep.
Constant power
together.
It's an arms race essentially.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I don't know what Uprising will bring. They've been very secretive about it. The card guys got a legendary. Apparently, they got a legendary.
Really?
Yeah, they're gonna reveal it. It's gonna be hype.
That's dope as hell.
Very dope. Very dope. I can't believe LSS. Did they spoil legendaries? Did like content creators do legendaries last time? I wasn't paying attention
I
to
think
Arya.
so. I mean, they gave us Skullcap, and then I think a few other lower, like smaller content creators got to spoil the Eisenloft, the Bastion of Eisenloft, and Silver Palms, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha. Yeah. Interesting.
oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, that is what they did for Silver Palms. Interesting. Well, so before we go in and analyze season 2 of the ProQuest, we have all sorts of week 2 results right here that we want to run by you, John. Before we go into this, not looking at any stats, who do you think is the most underrated or underrepresented hero in the current metagame?
Ooh. Well, I can't say Lexi. I would have said Lexi, I think, but now I can't say Lexi because it's just everywhere.
Yeah, it's almost overrepresented. All the Ranger fans are finally vindicated.
It's come out of the woodwork. All closet Ranger fans that never picked it up. Now they're just like, I've always loved it.
Our time to shine is now.
So, oh man, this is such a biased take, but I say Bravo Showstopper.
Really interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like a well-made Bravo list beats Starvo and beat Chain, and then beats like every other aggro. You just fold the Prism. But
yeah,
it's just the folding the Prism thing is something I don't like. I don't think there's necessarily a hero outside of that kind of I think is necessarily underrated. I think Viserai. Matt is such a good Viserai pilot. Like he played that at ProQuest and was just handing L's, bro. He was handing L's to Starvo. I look over and he's not breaking a sweat. And he has Starvo like full blocking and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? Like so man, maybe Viserai. Maybe Viserai actually. I think because Viserai doesn't fold the Prism, you can at least put up a shot into most aggro decks.
What I like about Viserai is that he doesn't fold to anybody.
It doesn't fold, yeah. No, I'm not changing my answer. I think Viserai. The only Bravo is like second place, but the fact that he folds to Prism, it's just too dangerous. Because I mean, I played Prism in top 8 and top 4 of ProQuest, so it's like it's just gonna be there. You're gonna face at least one, and if that one isn't the top, and you're playing a deck that has like a 0% win rate, like why are you even there? Like you could have just packed up round 3 and went home, got a sandwich or something. Instead, you're like starved 11 hours, and what did you get out of it? A pack of sleeves? I mean,
yeah, it's rough out there.
Kind of gross.
It is rough out there.
Kind of gross. You come home, like your girlfriend's mad at you, for like 11 hours to play this tournament, and what do you have to show for it? You don't have a gold foil.
You don't even have a nice mat.
You don't even have a nice mat. You just got a pack of sleeves. And you're just like, I got these sleeves.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I got top 4 at the first ProQuest this year, and I got a freaking $300 cold foil hero. Come on, where's my $100 promo card?
Oh, I will say, this is actually really interesting, right? So the pricing structure has completely changed with like RTNs last year. Because Matt, you and I both kind of started around the same era within a few months. And we both played our first RTN, didn't we? Wasn't that the Time Twister RTN?
Correct.
I think.
Yeah.
That was our first event.
Yeah, that was mine as well.
Yeah, and I had like a week into the game, like literally a week and a half. I had played like 3 games of Fab total.
That's
and
funny.
I remember that first place got like a tunic mat and a full art tunic.
Yeah, it was gross.
It was gross. Like looking back, I didn't even think about that until recently because it was like, you're a new player. I'm not really looking at those things. I'm not looking at the first place prize. I'm just trying to figure out, what these cards even do. So, but yeah, I mean, if you look at that and then you look at RTN this year and you look at ProQuest season 2, I mean, season 1 had had the swag, you got a mat for top 2, you got cold foil heroes. It was pretty hype. But then season 2 is just sleeves and there's no mat. And then first place gets a gold foil. But then RTN is just gold foils.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. I mean, I don't know if they're going to introduce more stuff, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the announcement for Road to Nationals a little bit later. It's not technically an official announcement, but it was like a retailer release kind of deal.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the ProQuest Week 2 meta has kicked off, and Fab TCG has put out a few articles about it and has given us some data. So, we have quite a few results to look at, and Fab Dojo has actually updated a handful, not too many actually, but a handful of event results with deck lists. And one of the most interesting things I think I see stand out to me is that Dorinthia won a ProQuest in Norway.
Indeed.
Dorinthia.
At Game Ninja, piloted by one Oscar Cruz. I gotta say, this list's pretty interesting. There's a lot of cards that I wouldn't use. And what's really interesting is they're actually running Unified Decree, which is has been a bulk mega rare up until now.
That's the card that caught my eye.
Time to search my bulk.
I don't know. I think one of my favorite things about this list is that I don't know where the Clerical error is, or if when they filled it out, it was like as a joke.
I see it.
But it lists 0 Valiant Thrust, which is really funny.
In red.
So I don't know. Obviously a Bolton card, but that's just really funny to list 0. Could really upset your local judge.
You probably wrote
it. But yeah, this list is phenomenal. I might actually copy it because I've secretly been a Dory fanboy since the beginning. I have special sleeves picked out and everything for whenever I can build the deck. So I'm really happy about this.
Yeah, Dory's cool. I think Dory just catches a lot of new players off guard too. I mean,
oh, for sure.
Like if you don't know how to block and reprise and what the conditions are for a lot of cards, you can punish people really hard.
Absolutely.
The game knowledge is massive.
Oh, for sure. What was interesting too is someone, I forgot who it was, but someone had mentioned playing Dory at a ProQuest and doing really well with it. I think it was it Fluke and Box? That might have been Fluke and Box. And they had said that like they got a bunch of counters on Dawnblade, like Dawnblade Dory. And if you think about it, right, like Starvo and Chain don't want to block. So it's like you can rack up some counters. I mean, if I have the Oakenolfies in hand, like I'm not going to be concerned about you getting a counter, right?
Yeah.
Or something crazy like that. But then if the game keeps going and they keep getting more and more counters, it can become problematic.
And
like
if you try to block it, they punish you for blocking it.
Exactly. Like especially with Chain, like oh my gosh, like imagine just getting beat up every single turn. Like now you have to block, and if you have to block, you're gonna get punished anyway. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I think you've just convinced Doug to play Dorinthia. Our next.
How much is that Majestic going for?
Nothing. I've got a few for you.
Yeah, well, no, not that one. The one that directly puts counters on Dawnblade. The one that from
that one's
Classic Bees.
Oh wait, that one. I think we were talking about the new one that came out with. There's one that actually does do the same thing that came out from Everfest. It's not on this list though, but yeah, that one's $26 from the Classic Battles.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dude, Reiner got destroyed, bro, in that set.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Reiner made it, bro.
Big sad. Chat. And of course, we seen some Starvo and Chain wins this ProQuest week. There is one interesting thing, though. I did find out that there's this Shane player who won in Hong Kong, Kaiser Wong. And on Fab Dojo, he actually has 2 entries to his name this ProQuest season. Earlier in the season, in March 12th, he won with Viserai. He got first at another one with Viserai and at first at a different store with Shane.
Runeblade Savant.
And his Viserai. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the next one he's going for. His Viserai list, though, is pretty interesting. It's kind of an older style list that runs 9th Blades, yellow reeds, and red reeds, but it doesn't run removables. It runs 2 sinks and 3 reduced to rune chance.
Yeah, I think he wasn't expecting Starvo, or he has decided that that doesn't matter because you're not going to block it anyway, type of deal. A lot of people in ProQuest Season 2 weren't playing Starvo because if you think about it, it's bad practice. The deck's going away anyway, so I think people, especially if you're not going to France or you don't plan to go to France, which is a lot of people, I think, at least here in the States. So it kind of is maybe people are more comfortable playing different decks compared to exclusively I want to go to New Jersey. It's right there. It's a little bit harder. Even for me, I can't go to France. So I did play Starvo at the ProQuest, so I'm not really supposed to be talking, I guess, but I think
Well,
there's
you're
definitely
comfortable
room.
with it.
I like,
I
but I'm
mean,
sad. I'm sad it's gone, bro. I'm like the only person in the world that's gonna miss Starvo. But my
but
boy.
there was always still a gold foil on the line, so you couldn't be blamed for wanting to play a little bit of a win more deck.
Yeah, it's fun. I like counting the 3 colors. Pretty hard.
The 3 colors on the rainbow.
3 crayons.
Now, I think there's so we mentioned Dory, right? There's something else that I think is worth mentioning, and I haven't found this anywhere. I don't know if the deck list exists, but Matt, you mentioned this to me in the car yesterday while we were driving home from Orlando, and you mentioned that Levia won.
I knew it. The 0 blood debt Levia. I have the list.
What you do?
Oh man,
you know
do.
about this then?
Let me. I saw it on Twitter. Let me see if I can go pull it up. Give me a second.
that's
here's the
amazing.
thing. There's been Levias that top 8, like easily, right?
Yeah, especially when there's 8 people.
Yeah.
ProQuest.
Especially when you're the only one. When you convince everyone that ProQuest doesn't exist and you show up.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. It wasn't the man, the myth, the legend representing Levia. I'm not talking about Man Sant, but the Right Time Gaming guy who was on stream. I forgot his name, sadly, because he's on Facebook represented by Right Time Gaming. But yeah, like he's been going to ProQuest all over playing Levia. Still trying to get her Living Legend points.
Dude, I still don't know what Levia does, and I've played this game for like 9 months now.
Her ability actually doesn't do anything except turn Blood Debt off.
All I know is it's
no lie.
It's like Carrion Husk and like Rhinar cards, but without Intimidate. That's all I understand. And banishing.
Well,
banishing.
Instead of discarding a card to play the card, you have to exile. You have to banish cards from your graveyard. Yeah, I'm not finding this thing. We definitely are going to see it next week because it seems that last week when we did the podcast, I said that I saw a Azalea make first place. I'm sorry, an Azalea get top 8, right? And it wasn't tracked on Fab TCG, but this week it was. This week, Fab TCG actually has an Azalea making a single top 8. So I think maybe next week.
Now.
Oh man! So
I played E-Strike.
Of course, it played E-Strike. So yeah, I guess we're getting to a point where I don't know. It's weird to say this, but it's almost like any hero can win minus Azalea, obviously. But that's so fascinating to me that, like, I guess it just comes down to one of the things I notice about this game, right? That I feel does not really transfer like from other trading card games, or at least not any of the ones that I've played, like especially Magic the Gathering, is like people like have mascots in this game and they're just absolutely devoted to decks. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm a Jund player through and through in Magic the Gathering, and I'll always play some flavor of Jund in Modern no matter what happens, much to my own folly. But it's weird because there's like this, I don't know, there's this thing that happens in Flesh and Blood where people are just like, no, this is my hero. I don't care what happens. I'm going to win with Levia. And I think there's people that do that with Azalea too. And then I know I slightly mentioned it earlier, but I don't think I was capable of putting it into words as much. But that so many Lexi players were finally vindicated after years of just worshiping the Ranger idea or the deck, where now they can finally have their mascot win. So with that said, John, here's my question. Who is your mascot?
Oh man, this is tough. I have to say Oldhim.
Oldham's your mascot, huh?
He's so lame sometimes because like he promotes like degeneracy, like Crown of Seeds and Rampart are just broken. But I have to say I really enjoy like the pitch stacking that he provides, and there's like well thought out games where you genuinely feel like sometimes you do outplay your opponent, right? I like Bravo as well. It has to be between the two. I can't pick one right now. There hasn't been anything in Fab that so far for me has been like that's the one, outside of Starvo, of course, but I don't really count him if he's going to be out of the picture.
So Guardian, essentially.
Yeah, just Guardian in general. I guess. All of them. I like them for different reasons, but I don't think there's been a hero yet that has had me like been super hyped. Like Matt, you love Viserai, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
I don't
do.
think I've seen a hero in Fab yet that has had me at that same excitement level that you have for Viserai, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes for me, it was like that's what gravitated me to the game, though. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I really find these mechanics interesting. I find the art in the game interesting. I mean, I did, but what really drew me actually was kind of like the hero art. And then when I saw Viscera, I'm like, ooh, this one looks especially cool. And the idea of like the arcane rising and then the whole packaging and the idea of just getting started on something fresh and new, a brand new card game that I could kind of like find my way into. I was like very pumped and excited to do that. So that's what kind of, and then I associate that, introductory feeling of getting into a game with Viserai because of I opened very early on Grasp of the Arknight. So I was like, this is the deck I have
Awesome.
to build.
Yeah,
So
it fits right in flavor. You just had to
yeah,
do it. It makes sense. Makes
it was
sense. Yeah.
perfect. It was meant to be.
Yeah. Fab is cool. I mean, yeah, I mean, like Fab was like the only game really that was running events, like I think through COVID, which actually was why I picked it up. I was bored. All the Vanguard events got canceled for like 2 years. I got tired of just sitting there, playing online with no stakes. And then Fab was like, LOL, $1 million circuit, and I'm like, what's this?
And then even Magic just only recently, even after like
Yeah,
the last year, only recently brought their competitive play back, their pro play back.
yeah. I think to compete with Fab personally, I
Yeah,
think
I
they
mean,
were losing a giant like the market share, I guess you could say, wasn't there. Like Fab had just total reign over competitive play for any TCG.
absolutely.
Yeah, Pokemon wasn't hosting events. I think Yu-Gi-Oh was, but very limited. But yeah, I think that's actually probably why Fab took off.
For
Part of it for
sure.
sure, because you had,
Definitely had a lot of hype behind it too.
yeah, like that Vegas event for Aria had like what 900 people, and that was when the game was still picking up steam. I think from
Yeah,
that point onward, it just exploded.
100%.
I found that Levia list, by the way.
Oh hell yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, so yeah, that's it. That's why I've been weirdly quiet as I found it as well. And I'm
And
trying to
I
like,
haven't
I'm
seen this
trying to
yet,
figure it
guys.
out.
Send this
Yeah,
to me.
I'm looking at it. I think it plays a lot of D-Reacts. There's 9 pummels here. There's 2 yellow unmovables. There's 3 red unmovables. Red sigil. It just seems super defensive, and then you just catch your opponent with chip damage on pummels. That's kind of what I
Oh
understand.
man, actually, that sounds so smart. Now that I think
Yeah,
about it, that sounds incredibly smart. Because okay, so here is I've watched Levia gameplay. I read the deck. I've like teched the deck a little bit. I've never played it, but I've seen enough. So you need the fuel for those attacks. The exile 3 cards, right?
right.
You want the fuel for them. So what if you just spent most of the game or the first half of the game blocking, gaining life, and playing reactions? You fill up your graveyard with an even amount of 6 power cards and reactions, and then once you've whittled your opponent out of resources, you've blocked yourself, you've blocked enough cards to save your life total. Right now, you can start attacking them, and you won't run out of cards to exile the banish from your graveyard to fuel all of your attacks.
You would think so, but there's literally only one card with Blood Debt in this list. That's Red Hungering Slaughter Beast. The
Really?
rest of
What
these are
the?
brute cards. There's 3 Swing Bigs. There's Barraging Beatdowns. There's Yellow Smash Instincts, and there's High Rollers. That's literally it.
So this is
And Pack
so
Hunt.
essentially this is just a Rhinar deck without the Rhinar ability and with a Carrion Husk.
It's almost like they look at
Yeah.
intimidate as a negative thing. Which is, I mean, you still have your intimidate cards, but intimidating less might actually be kind of a good thing, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think Husk is just huge. I think Husk would
That's
be able
also
to
fair.
stop like Starvo tempo. I mean, if you have a Husk and you have a Sink Below an Arsenal or something like that, you can put up work. You're just chilling. And you can easily block with one card or D-react or do your shenanigans. You can stop those Okanolds coming in.
Oh, okay.
You
So
pummeled
those are the changes. So so Ethan Van Sant is the one that made this list. He's not the one that won with it. I have his older version where he was still trying to run 2 mandible claws. So the new one uses primarily uses club with husk. That's the tech?
Yeah, so
That's
you
what
keep
I'm trying. That's what I'm getting from it. There's claws on the list though, like as there should be.
against aggro decks, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always a proponent of claws and club. I don't like the all in on one side because you want to be able to pivot.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you play claws into the decks like Prism too and stuff like that,
Yeah,
where you can hit multiple auras off the scab skin.
yeah, because it's not just once. It's a once per turn attack, so you gotta have 2 weapons to do that for
Right,
sure.
exactly. Very interesting.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Love you representing out here. And funny enough, you know what else was represented out here? 3 players registered decks with young heroes.
So this is really confusing to me. Because it wasn't even like they were young heroes that was like the only it has to be a clerical error, right?
And it definitely has to be like a almost, I wouldn't say spiteful, but like a I'm sorry, I'm not going to change this for you kind of deal. You have to play with a young hero because it like you couldn't. Yeah, you're right. It must have been a clerical error or the fact that like at the event somebody's turned in a registration sheet with the young hero name and they were forced to play a young hero.
My biggest fear.
So
I had a
I don't
panic
know.
attack mid round 1 last week over this.
I feel like it's implied. So that's one of the things, right? Is you can have like within any deck list, you can kind of imply things. And I get like you could be like a real rule stickler here, but that would just
The intent isn't there. I feel like why on earth?
Yeah, the intent clearly isn't there.
For
but
sure.
Also, it's important to remember that judges do accept tips. And so I don't.
You have whiteout on you, Doug.
Yeah, right.
Whiteout.
So
I swear I wrote Bravo Star of the Show. There's just whiteout next to Star of the Show.
One of my favorite stories is the first IP2 I ever had to give out was to another judge.
Nice.
I was like, what were you doing?
Dear.
You filled this out wrong. Your deck list. You were trained. You were the chosen one.
You're the chosen one.
So I wonder if it's just an issue in the way the store reported the top 8, because I refuse to believe. Well, okay, never mind. I've hung around in card stores long enough to know that there are definitely people that are cocky enough that are like, I'm going to take down this pro quest with 20 life. And like
that one conspiracy theorist who's like, guys, I broke the meta. It's Kasai.
But yeah, so I guess Matt, you have the heroes listed. I did see that somebody tried to play Kasai at the Grand Prix attached to the Pro Tour, which is fascinating.
Makes me physically angry when people do that.
Funny.
So let's see here. You have the list, right? All right. So 1 Bolton and 2 Chain. So it's kind of like what happens? Like
one of them got top 8.
It has to be a clerical error, right? Unless it's just like the
8?
Psychological
Chain.
A young Chain deck.
No,
it has to be a clerical error.
Any random that doesn't play Fab would look at Chain and they just see a wall of text and it says Chain bound by shadow and they're like, I'm just going to write Chain. Like,
yeah.
I got 8 more deck lists to submit.
Or the psychological advantage of your opponent taking you less seriously because they only have to kill half of you.
Husk is broken. Husk is literally broken. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, you get Husk for like 3 turns.
Shane 26 life.
Literally 26 life Chain. Like 30 with Skullcap. Skullcap just inherently turned on.
Yeah, see, oh man. Well, that's the play. That's the that's the line, that's the angle they're taking.
It. If you're going to RTN in South Florida and you're listening to this, make sure play your young heroes because Skullcap will be turned on.
And Hard Final. Don't forget about that.
It'll be turned on. I promise you things will not go bad. You'll probably win.
That won't be the only thing turned on. Nani?
Oh, phenomenal. So, I mean, looking over these lists, though, so something's interesting, right? We were talking about what the most underrated hero in the meta is. And if we're looking at decks by top 8 conversion percentage. What's interesting is the most off-meta deck with the highest top 8 conversion percentage is actually Katsu the Wanderer. Has taken down 3 pro quests in this season, which is fascinating. He actually has a higher conversion rate than Lexi going into matches. So that's fascinating to me. So maybe with this limited set of data, Katsu might actually be the most underrated hero. I don't know. Personally, I think it's Dory.
I think it's I think it
Katsu
probably
and
is
Dory.
Katsu.
Yeah, because Katsu in this meta is actually not bad.
Dory's not that far behind her.
The Lexi conversion rate's just low because everyone picked up the Yuki list, and like that deck is actually pretty difficult.
They took a break.
Difficult. Yeah, like I look at that deck and there's a lot of moving pieces. So if someone's not trained in matchups and sideboarding and then piloting it, it's gonna go 2-2. Yeah, like for sure, especially when you're in a weird situation, you're not just steamrolling. The Katsu though, you don't want to block. Like Katsu, you have to block. It's almost like Lexi, where it's like you're gonna get comboed off every single turn if you don't block. So Starvo and Chain, they don't want to block. I could see it kind of getting in some sneaky wins there.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prism, it's good in a Prism too, supposedly.
It's weird. The matchup, so I've played the Prism Katsu matchup a bunch of times, and it's like 55-45 Katsu. It really, it just depends if they draw their poppers or not, because you can out aggro them so fast.
The Heralds I think it's if you draw the right side of your deck, right? Because I mean, you sideboard auras probably out, like the ones that you don't need, right? But at the same time, if you're drawing auras, you're drawing auras.
Yeah, it's like any turn I can drop 2 Heralds on you without you popping one is better than your best combo turn. So it's like, I don't know. It's a weird matchup.
Yeah, it sounds kind of dice rolly, unfortunately.
Absolutely. So I guess our last piece of news here is that we are paving some streets with the Road to Nationals.
Hell yeah.
Happening entirely in the month of July. The month which the Julian calendar is named for. Fun fact.
Julius.
So what's interesting to me, right, is I think that LSS kind of knows when a hero is broken. And I'm looking at the prize sheet for the Road to Nationals. And to me, they're kind of putting Icelander on a pedestal here, where the only way to get the cold foil is by winning one of these. So apparently, what is it? QED, Icelander cold foil adult hero is on par value wise with a full art tunic from last year in the eyes of LSS. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it might be.
Icelander best girl.
It's maybe it's a cool double-sided one, and we haven't seen it yet.
Ooh, maybe you're right, Matt.
And
maybe it has special Steve Argyle art.
Ooh, that would be cool. Now it's probably going to be the set art with the new artist, but yeah, now I feel a little bit better about getting my Armory kit cold foil one signed. Everyone was selling away their $30 cold foil Icelanders from Armory kit.
Some of us got 4 genuses.
Some of us. And some of us destroyed
I'm one of them.
I'm scared.
I traded all my genuses away.
Genus. Because Genus is already old, and he's young.
He's going to be a skeleton.
He's going to be a literal, like, Rune Blade.
He's an old
Rune Blade merchant.
Actually, he's going to be a meme character for sure. I think, so Magic has this character named Fibblethip, who's just like a ridiculous little eyeball monster. He kind of looks like Mike from Monsters Inc., but like he's significantly more timid. And just like he was like a meme character for a while, where he would just end up in the art of places like where he just shouldn't be. And I think that's what's going to happen to Genus. He's just like he's going to be the merchant,
dimension-ridden old man.
Oh no,
he's got what you need.
What you need.
Oh God. So this is interesting, right? Cold Foil Heroes fair Dromai random for everyone in the top 8, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
Just for showing up 9th through 32nd, you get Rainbow Foil extended art cards. And then the rest, and I really like that they're doing this because LSS is usually strict about promos and stuff. The store can just award them at their discretion. So like you could send a judge home, for instance, with a couple of them, which is pretty cool.
Less than 32 players. But I feel like if we're only getting one down here, we're probably not going to get less than 32.
That's true.
Dude, South Florida got bodied, bro. Again.
Yeah, I think about this a lot, right? With like the lack of major events here in South Florida, despite us being the 7th largest television market in the United States. And it has to be that LSS just sees Florida and that there's like 6 RTNs there and they just have no idea that our entire state's larger than their country. Like that has to be it, right?
Yeah. Or they just
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't blame them.
Like they saw the memes. They just hate Florida men.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, like Florida, that's like Rob and Tarek, right? Like where do they live? Orlando? 5 there, and then 1 for the hillbillies down south.
And 1 for the hillbillies up north too.
It's like the main characters, you know. It's like South Florida doesn't have any main characters, so
no one plays down there. Their cards catch fire. It's too hot.
Like, it's like Miami.
We're like Australia 2.0.
Like, why are you playing cards? You should be at the beach. The LSS
Yikes.
South Florida.
I'm gonna write James a letter.
Curl at the beach.
LSS, I promise. We have main characters down here. We have like at least 3 main characters down here. Okay, at least 3, and some good side characters that have been in development arcs. So please, if you're listening,
Oscar Isaac's from here. He's
from
South Florida.
We need more RTNs. I'm tired of going to 1. I'm driving 4 hours. 4 hours.
Have to play against just to have to compete with Rob and Derek.
Don't get me wrong. I love listening to the Hype Anime opening playlist with the boys on a 4-hour road trip. However, I cannot do that every single weekend. I need to just roll out of bed and walk to my local ProQuest like everybody else does.
Absolutely.
If only.
So
maybe next year. Maybe we'll get maybe Worlds will be in Miami. Oh, that'd be terrible.
That'd be terrible.
The parking would be atrocious.
The true test of like Worlds being in Miami would be like who can actually get to the convention center without getting in the car.
We got to leave 3 hours before it starts. You know, it's 25 miles away.
The IP5s would be legendary.
Oh gosh.
Half the freaking room would be empty.
Dude, imagine. Be kind of plus actually. We know what we're getting into. We can't leak the sauce.
Oh yeah, just don't tell anybody. Just tell
advantage.
everybody. You only need an hour to get there.
You said too much.
Okay.
Battle Hard in Miami.
Yeah, right.
Starts in the parking lot. Good luck. First to make it through the door gets a PTI.
I've been to Magic Grand Prix, which is like a equivalent size to like a calling / pro tour in Miami, and you did have to leave super early. Like it was pretty gnarly. And this was in 2013, where there were like half as many people in the world.
Oh gosh,
because it feels like we've doubled in the last 9 years. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see if they've got to drop one in Miami, but I wonder if they're just like, oh, there's no local game stores there. And then like, well, yeah, it's because the real estate prices are too high. So who knows?
Yeah, well, they got to make sure they know about Nowhere Games and what is it, Kingslayer, right?
Yeah,
and,
the homies up there, bro.
Bromley store.
Yeah,
whenever that opens.
All right, well, okay, so Matt, I think that sums it up for our recap of this week's metagame. So, Matt, I don't know if you realize this.
What's up?
But this has been our last episode until Uprising spoilers come out next week.
That's true.
So, I'm looking forward to it. And I can't wait. I hope you'll join us there too. And John, thank you very much for joining us today.
Of course.
Yeah,
Always
man,
a pleasure.
thanks.
Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Just that I hope we get to talk about some new cards when we reconvene next week. And I wish this was the part where I get to tell you that we have a exclusive pitch stack uprising preview, but we don't. So somebody email James White and LSS and get him on top of that.
Absolutely. We'll get there. I do. I don't know. I think I think if they don't release any cards, maybe we'll get to maybe you guys will get to hear my fan fiction where Levia met Reinar and he trained her in the brute ways. It's really.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, I don't write that kind of fan fiction anymore.
Is there a market for that? Asking for a friend?
100%. You gotta get all the brute players in on it.
Yeah, they'll take commissions. All right, well, that about does it for Pitch Stack episode 11. And we'll see y'all next week.
Take care.